Coming up on Regarding Men, Cuomo in the crosshairs.
Hello, everybody. I'm Paul Elam with paulelam.com, and I am joined, as always, by my two cohorts in crime, Janice Fiamingo from the Fiamingo Files, and Tom Golden, who says men are good all the time. And this is Regarding Men, where we hold men in high regard and where red pill isolation comes to die a quick and merciful death, which it does every day of the week here. We're talking today about an incredibly serious topic, that of sexual harassment, especially by powerful white men, because it's worse when white men do it. We all know that. In the news this past couple of weeks has been Andrew Cuomo, the governor of New York, who has been accused, among other things, and you might want to ask the children to leave the room, or any women with delicate sensibilities might not want to listen to this, because the charges are so egregious, so horrific, so heinous that they should not be uttered
in the presence
of
young people.
Young people. Am I not allowed to say children anymore?
Well, you froze, and so I finished it off for you.
Oh no. Okay. Well, I bet it didn't freeze. Anyway, Cuomo has been accused, one, of touching a woman's back inappropriately.
Oh, God, Paul.
He also touched another woman's arm. He touched another woman's face. He asked a woman if she dated older men. Oh, God, it's starting to get to me, folks. Just give me a moment. So terrible. Okay. I'm pulled together now. And to make matters worse, he was so brazen about his abuses, he did it while he knew he was on video. And we have the video to prove it right here. Tom, will you roll the video again?
Here it comes.
Once again,
Hold
get women and children out of the room.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
I want to see you eat the whole sausage.
I don't know if I should eat the whole sausage in front of you, but I'm definitely going to eat it.
No excuses. You know everyone, you know the county executive?
I do. Now you're going to know me at a whole different level. What I do.
My daughter Michaela.
Hello. Nice to meet you. I think we're going to be here a while.
Yeah.
We might be here a while. It's not as easy to eat this in front of all these cameras as you make it seem.
Well, that's right.
Now
That's
I know how the two
your
animals feel.
fault. Not only do you have to eat the sausage, but
That's
you
all.
have to.
That's part of the being the governor, right? Learning how to.
Well, there is a course when you get elected to office. They have a course called Eating on Camera, and then eating on camera while talking to colleagues.
Oh, my God.
Terrible stuff.
It's really
harassed that woman, but he also was. I don't know how this guy is. He just manages to ham for the camera while he's abusing somebody. It's almost as though he doesn't think he's abusing somebody. I mean, if you can imagine that.
And he's sitting next to his daughter.
Yeah,
Oh,
there he
my
is.
God.
You know, he even introduces his daughter to the woman that he's abusing, which I think is another form of abuse, right? Imagine the therapy. Imagine the therapy the daughter will have to go through.
Yes.
My father, right in front of me, he made a woman eat a sausage.
Now, mind you also that Governor Cuomo is responsible for the unnecessary deaths of 15,000 New York seniors. But I mean, we don't want to clutter up our discussion with too much, focus or emphasis on that. We need to get to the important matters here of this guy's just heinous abuse of women and why we should all believe them. And that's my open. What do you guys think? Tom, Janice?
Tom, you want to go for it?
Janice, you want to go for it? It's just amazing to me. And it's just amazing to me. I mean, the accusations are so weak and diluted. It's like, where did they come from? 2 more people came up with similar accusations today. He touched their elbow. It's like, okay, how about that? It's like, it's just hard to believe. I mean, how crazy have we gotten?
Yeah, well, and I couldn't help but think, I was trying to remember, I think last year and the year before, there was another really prominent white male politician, a very powerful politician. And a number of women, I think it was 6 or 7, came forward with similar sorts of accusations about, remember there was a lot about inappropriate touching, that he'd made women feel uncomfortable. I think maybe he'd smelled some woman's hair and given her a long lingering kiss on the back of her head and all sorts of things like that. And then even there was an actual sexual assault allegation against that white male politician. And I can't remember. I don't think there were calls for his impeachment. In fact, oh yeah, they made him the president of the United States. Yeah, it's
He definitely never asked a woman to eat a sausage. I know that for a fact.
No.
He never asked a woman to eat a sausage. I think that may be the difference.
Yeah, that may be it. Yeah. Well, you know what? Yeah, I don't know. Let's just go through them very briefly. For accuser number 1, the only one that could even conceivably in any universe be seen as a serious allegation, a former aide said he kissed her on the lips without warning in his office. I want to come back to that one. Another aide said he asked her inappropriate personal questions about romance between an older man and a younger woman, and she got the feeling, this is her exact words, she got the feeling that he wanted, quote, wanted to sleep with me.
Oh, boy.
A Biden campaign worker said he kissed her on the cheek at a wedding after asking permission to do so. Whew.
The bastard.
The bastard. But it's a form of harassment even to be asked, right? To be asked permission. Women get so tired of that. That's in itself really demeaning.
To be fair, if you're a very attractive or wealthy man, it's not harassment to ask for a kiss. It's only if you're not as alpha as the victim would like you to be.
Mm-hmm. Or are aging and under attack by others, then it's suddenly a very, very serious offense. Last 2, a former press aide endured a very long embrace in a dimly lit, that's very significant, a dimly lit LA hotel room in 2000. So that was only 21 years ago. And she's coming forward now to speak the trauma. And then finally, very brave. And that's the thing that I love about these accusers too, how they always congratulate one another on their courage in coming forward about this unspeakable abuse. And then finally, we have a policy and operations aide who worked for Cuomo from 2013 to 2015, who said he called her sweetheart and asked if she had a boyfriend, touched her lower back, and kissed her hand at one point, who says that chivalry is dead. There we go. And these allegations have left these victims feeling frightened and confused and ashamed. One said that she felt reduced as if she were, quote, just a skirt. I think we have to take that very seriously, because the trauma of feeling that you are just a skirt, it's something women have battled for decades. And, it's no laughing matter.
And I know that when I once too, I had a moment where I felt like just a skirt. It was horrible. I'm never going to go through that again. My God.
Must have been a big skirt.
Yep.
I'm a plus size.
It does boggle the mind, though, how the accusations stick and become dangerous depending upon who wants them to be dangerous. You know? I mean, even Cuomo is what's that?
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Cuomo's a Democrat. I mean, usually it's the Democrats don't get touched and the Republicans get nailed, you know, but he's a Democrat and he's still getting this. I wonder why. Why would that be?
That would seem to me to be the question, because I mean, I said it in jest a few minutes ago, but the fact of the matter is, he is, by all accounts, directly responsible for the deaths of thousands of senior citizens in New York, and they gave the son of a bitch an Emmy for his
press conference.
In the midst of that. I mean, it's absolutely crazy. Yeah. But once the sisterhood decided that Cuomo was somehow tainted or dangerous, they're lining up to prosecute him over nothing. There's enough crazy in this story to last us all.
That is correct.
It is absolutely insane that this guy did what he did. Nobody cares. And now all of a sudden he's a monster for doing these ridiculously innocuous things.
Yeah.
For the most part. And of course, we're lauding his accusers as heroes.
Yes.
For coming out and showing the bravery to speak up. But the question I think Tom framed is right. Why this guy? What? Because he is a Democrat. Why him? Why now? Why this circumstance? And
the only thing I can come up with in my own brain is that this is a distraction from the whole nursing home thing, because that makes Democrats look bad. Because there's other governors that did the same thing. You know, I think New Jersey is another one, and I'm not sure about Michigan. But if they can just kind of make that part go away by putting a big fire in front of it of sexual abuse, you know, sexual assault, then maybe that's a way to just sort of minimize the damage from what he really did. You know?
And lied about it, of course, too.
Yes, and covered it up.
The real kicker.
Jeez, come on.
Yeah, and that's the only thing that I can really think of that makes any sense, because the fact of those nursing home deaths has been known for months. Months and
no
months
one
and months.
lifted a finger.
Yeah, I mean, not the full number, obviously, because he lied about it and had help in covering it up. But certainly the fact that he and the Department of Health, I think it is called, directed that all of these COVID-19 patients would be put directly into nursing homes, thereby, and at a time, you know, this was back in March and April, well, certainly by April, it was well known how infectious this disease was and how it was targeting older people, how they were particularly vulnerable. So that was done. It wasn't rescinded, the order, until May the 10th, if I had that information correct. And so they did this, and it was known that some thousands died, if not the full extent of the impact, and yet didn't seem to matter. And then the knowledge that he lied about it and performed this significant cover-up, even that has been in the public domain now for quite a few weeks. And maybe it's that. And so, as you say, Tom, this is an attempt to cover that by saying that he's been taken out because of the sexual harassment allegations, and therefore hoping to bury the cruelty and the indifference and the corruption, the evil that those actions and then his cover-up represent. That's all. Yeah, it's all I can really think of. But I mean, the larger question is, why does this work so well? Why? I mean, even Democrats are going along with it. I can see why Republicans jump on the bandwagon, because any opportunity to see your enemy defeated is an opportunity to take, I suppose. But, you know, I was reading the comments under this video of the sausage eating episode, which, just to be clear, that woman is not accusing him of harassment.
Thank goodness.
Has said, you know, wow, well, all power to her. She's admitted that it was perfectly consensual and she enjoyed it, etc. But even so, the comments under it are full of fulminating outrage.
Yes,
And,
yes.
they're aghast that he would do such a thing in front of his daughter. And, it goes on. Only a man with a little sausage does this sort of thing to women. Yes, of course. Well, that was very clever, wasn't it?
We've never heard that one before.
Never heard that one before, no. And, things like, that's his daughter sitting beside him. That is very inappropriate and very concerning that he feels comfortable enough to act like this in front of her. And, it goes on and on. Classless and clueless pigs. And here's one. This sort of behavior was acceptable in my family. And I've got to tell you, I can't get past the first minute of this video. So disrespectful. And it goes on and on. There's.
Wasn't it a 54-second video?
Well, I think that was under the longer version. Because there is the other version
of that one.
Yeah, there is a director's cut. It's the one that the body language whisperer, and that's very interesting. We'll put a link to that one too. A friend of mine sent me that one, and she comments. Probably many of our listeners know of the body language whisperer, a woman who analyzes the body language, mostly of famous people, in order to tell us what she sees revealed. And she does a long analysis of the full video and talking about how he's using his power, for access to her, and she's using her youth and beauty for access to him. And, she doesn't exactly accuse him of harassment, although she depicts him in a pretty negative way. Right. And is fairly damning towards the young reporter who is engaged in the same thing. I mean, to me, honestly, maybe there's something missing in me that I do not have the reaction that so many women seem to have to these kinds of encounters. But
yes.
What I see is honestly, I don't like Cuomo at all.
I don't either.
But I liked him after watching the sausage video. I see a perfectly benign encounter.
Yes.
He introduces his daughter. He's at ease. He's not. I don't see anything sexual in it.
He's being silly.
But he talks about how once you are elected to office, you have to take a little course in how to eat in front of the camera, which I bet is probably true and it's kind of interesting. And I think he saw a skinny girl, she's very thin, and who was taking his picture, and so he offered her a sausage. What's the big deal? And forced her to eat in the kind of benign paternal way that older Italians. There's a huge culture around food and forcing food on people as a gesture of friendliness or hospitality or
is patriarchal abuse in action. And Janice, what sausage he was really offering.
Yeah, that's it. And this creepy old man meme, and I do think it may have something to do with his getting older, but we can come back to that maybe later. But I despise the creepy old man meme. I really think that it is one of the most damaging developments of our culture, fueled by feminism and by the general animus against older white men, that pervades our culture. Yes. And it ruins everything. I've been at family gatherings, at social gatherings where lots of older men acted this way towards younger women, and it was all taken in a good spirit. It was 99% completely benign and healthy and community building. And maybe there is some erotic frisson going on there. Older men are attracted to younger women generally, or at least before the hysteria around sexual harassment, younger women generally enjoyed the attention, the obvious admiration that an older man has for a younger woman's youth and the beauty of youth, if not actual beauty. And so what? So there's a bit of erotic something going on there. It doesn't hurt anybody. It's a natural, healthy thing. If it's not turned into something that is overtly abusive, which it isn't in most cases, there's nothing wrong with it. And I hate the fact that it is now being demonized, and so many people are willing to join in the mobbing and to express their self-righteous outrage.
Yes.
And Janice, I think part of what you see in the comments there is just a reflection of a society that is coiled up like a rattlesnake, ready to pounce on men at any moment. That's why all you got to do is show them an innocuous video like that, and they will read every gutter thought they've ever had in their life into the meaning of that thing, just so that they can have an excuse to condemn and criticize this man. I want to offer a counter theory. I don't know if it's a counter theory, but I think there's another possible explanation to why the weird treatment of Cuomo through these alleged scandals. One, I think it's true that you do get the benefit of taking the attention off the fact that Democrats have been killing seniors during this pandemic.
Yes.
With crazy policies and insane stuff. But the other thing is that Cuomo is male and he's white. And there are several younger female and people of color, whatever the hell that means these days, who are ambitious enough to be eyeballing the governor's seat. And I think, and you've seen the antagonism between Cuomo and Democrats like de Blasio for a long time. The more progressives, which is like hard to imagine more progressive than Cuomo, but there's some much further to the left individuals in the Democrat Party that would like to see the old guard Democrats out. And Cuomo is one of them, and they would like to replace him with somebody who is younger, more female, more black, more Hispanic, more something other than white male, to take his place and to push the progressive agenda. I think that's part of it. But they didn't feel like they could do it over the pandemic because it was too valuable to have him in the heroes roles for that. But they can get rid of him on the sexual allegations and cover up the pandemic misconduct at the same time. Yeah, I think that's entirely possible.
Could well be. Yeah. I wouldn't be surprised, because there is that struggle going on for sure within the Democrat Party.
And I think Cuomo's pissed some people off about sexual assault too. I mean, he has a history of calling people out and saying they should resign because of sexual assault. Let me give you some quotes. Vito Lopez should not spend another day in office, let alone a whole month. He should resign effective immediately, and if he does not, he must be expelled. I mean, this is Cuomo talking about someone who's accused of sexual assault. Here's another one. This pattern of behavior is repugnant by every standard and directly contradicts the policies the Assembly has advanced for the last 20 years. If they do not resign, the Assembly must send a clear message they do not tolerate this abuse of women and should seriously consider moving to expel them. And if they seek to return this coming session, blah, 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 blah. So this is a guy who's been pointing the finger at people for a while. I mean, this is right, 2012.
He freed Kavanaugh that way. He was all on board to dump Kavanaugh during that. And you talk about, equally flimsy allegations against him that turned out to be outright lies, which, by the way, for me, whenever people come out with politically driven accusations of this nature, when you see them coming out around the politics and everything, and with most other high profile cases, because of the history of them, I always assume them to be lies. I think it's the safe bet to assume that they're, and it's in keeping with due process to assume the innocence of the accused. And what presumed innocence means doesn't mean that you're giving somebody the benefit of the doubt. Presumed innocence means that you have to start out believing that there's no way this guy did this thing. And then somebody has to prove beyond all your reason that it did happen before he gets convicted or she gets convicted. Well, no, he gets convicted. We don't convict she's very much.
We don't. We sure don't. Yeah, well.
And his allegations only reinforce that nature. I don't believe any of these women. I think it's all bullshit. I do. Not that I'm Well, I'm bleeding my heart for Andrew Cuomo.
I don't think it's bullshit that he touched her back or touched her elbow. I mean, that's probably true, but I think the problem is that the allegations are so stupid. And Janice asked a question before. She asked the question, why is this so effective? Why is it so effective to have these stupid allegations against someone and everyone throws up their arms and says, throw him out? Throw him out. Why the hell is that's got to be the answer. But how has it gotten to this point?
I know. I mean, it's so crazy because the allegations are so I actually tend to think that they're kind of true because most men who have spent their career kissing people on the cheek and hugging people, both men and women, and also again having been a young, powerful, very powerful and rather good-looking man, I bet he did it for years and it was welcomed, and nobody would ever have thought of complaining. It seems like often this happens to these men. I did a video years ago now about a wonderful man at the University of California at Irvine named Francesco Ayala. He was a Spanish man who had come to the United States. He was a top-level biologist, and he was also a grape grower, and he had made millions of dollars in his grapevine business, which he then donated to the University of California at Irvine. He endowed all sorts of scholarships in 2 different buildings and all sorts of things. And he'd been a very good looking and very Spanish young man in a position of power, and he'd always given women tons of compliments, sexually tinged compliments, and they loved it. And finally, in his late 70s and 80s, he was still on the campus, and all of a sudden, all these young women started complaining about him, and he was eventually totally disgraced. He was not only stripped of his emeritus professor status, they were taking his names off the buildings that he had endowed with his millions of dollars that he's donated, and they even barred him from coming onto campus. And this was not for sexual assault. It wasn't even for sexual touching or even, physical touching. It was for giving women compliments. And the women said that they felt demeaned and they felt harassed and scared and embarrassed and, all of this. And somebody wrote me after I did the video and said that he had taken a class from this professor 20 years before when he was young, vital, and, he was the king of the campus, basically, and the women loved it that he gave them these compliments. It was only when he was in his late 70s, early 80s that suddenly they went for him. So there's something that happens, too, I think, with women and their, I don't know what, revulsion against older men. And they see this opportunity to put those men in their place, to demean those men. And because there is this incredibly strong general animus against older white men, they take the opportunity to turn what was probably at the time, even, the most serious allegation, I suppose, all of them are utterly trivial. But I did want to ask you guys about the one potentially serious, which is the kiss on the lips. Now, even that, I do not see that as an impeachable offense. And I would have to know a lot more about what went on in that office, what kind of conversations they had, what the relationship was like between them. I'm like you, Paul, that one I actually don't really believe. It just seems so strange. If you're getting up after you've just been talking to the governor, you're an aide, you're about to leave, what does he do? He suddenly jumps out and grabs her, and it just seems very strange. You could turn your head away quite easily or dodge out of the way. It wouldn't be, it's not easy to suddenly grab a woman when she's walking to the door and kiss her. But setting all of that aside, I find it absolutely unimaginable when I think about my own interactions with bosses over the years, none of whom would ever have done anything like that. But okay, let's say he did it. Is that an impeachable offense? I did a video once about a boxer who was being interviewed, a Bulgarian boxer who had come to the United States and he just won a match. And he was being interviewed by this woman with huge breasts in this very revealing outfit. And she was sort of puckering her lips at him and being very erotic in her behavior. And all of a sudden he grabbed her and gave her a kiss at the end of the interview. And she was then suing him with Gloria Allred as her lawyer. She was suing him for $600,000 for damages. And I did a video defending him. And I didn't actually say that, the kiss is meaningless. I said, okay, maybe you shouldn't have done it. But I didn't think it was worth $600,000 in damages for sure. And, I just didn't see it as a big deal. And all sorts of people attacked me in the comments of the video saying, how would you like it, Janice, if somebody just grabbed you and kissed you on the lips? And, I don't know what to say to that. Like, I don't want to say, oh, it's fine, because then, well, then next time you're assaulted, it'll be your own fault. But actually, like, what's the big deal? My body is not a sacred vessel. It will not be permanently sullied if some lips come in contact with my lips, even if I didn't want them. And I got into this big conversation with my husband. He was like, well, I don't want a man kissing you on the lips, without your permission or even with your permission. But, but like, is it a damage? Like, is that battery as it was alleged that it is? And I guess technically in law, it could be seen as a form of battery or assault. I don't know. What do you guys think? Like, how do we deal with these kinds of allegations?
One of the things about this, we were asking, the overall question is, how did things get to this point? What happened to society to make all this so readily attainable? And the thing for me is that we have socialized 2 generations of men to be obsequious simps, and we have socialized women to be thieves and liars. That's what we've done as a society. That's what we've taught them. Yep. That is a horrible combination that is just primed for any kind of abuses you can imagine, is that when the general mentality is that you can't question a woman no matter what she says. When she points a finger, by God, the world of blue pill simps is going to jump into action on her behalf and help her crucify whoever she's displeased with. That is the real system. That's when MGTOW guys talk about the fact that we put a loaded gun in the hands of women in this society. This is exactly what they mean by that. And it's 100% true. It's true. And of course, the inner condition is that, oh man, if there's a woman threatened, especially if you've got 2 generations of emasculated men whose only connection to any kind of sense of masculinity is to virtue signal chivalrously about women's plights, that, man, we got a recipe for crazy like this culture has never seen before. And it's worse than just the general leftism. It's awful what's happening. I mean, that story Janice told about that poor guy just getting his life destroyed at the time when he was supposed to retire and be able to look back with love and admiration on his work and the people that he reached and connected to. And all of that is destroyed because of what? Because he paid a compliment. Yeah. And we've taught young women that if you compliment them, they can fucking crucify you for it. And they're doing it. So to me, that's the problem in a nutshell.
Yep. Yeah. And it's fueled by gynocentrism, which takes this crazy nonsense and makes it worse and worse and worse. Because with gynocentrism, you can't criticize women. You got to take care of them. And so it takes this craziness and makes it even worse. But Paul, you hit it on the head, I think.
Yeah.
That's exactly right.
And it's by arrogance and privilege too. It's the
and by delusion.
There's
this guy I heard the other day, Dr. McDonald, talking about we're all suffering a psychotic delusion in this country.
We really are.
And I think he's right. I think he's right. And Janice, you asked before, what am I missing to not be able to feel this? I wanted to say right then, Janice, you're not woke. That's what you're missing. You don't have that woke shit. And that's a good thing. We need to bless people for not having it because it's dangerous.
It sure is. Well, it's the religious ecstasy of shared victimhood, and it leads to the most vicious of witch hunts imaginable. And and it is so ironic. Jeez. We've said this a million times, of course. And Mike Buchanan always that's one of his slogans. Women are strong, women are wonderful, women need whatever it is, quotas or protection or whatever. But it's so overt in this case. Women are strong. Oh yeah, women can go into the political arena and they can take it like any man. And then if a man touches your back or gives you the feeling that he wants to sleep with you, suddenly you're ashamed and confused and frightened. How can those two things be compatible? You know, they can't. And it's got to be a lie. She doesn't feel ashamed and confused and frightened, or if she does, she shouldn't be in the public arena at all. She should be sheltering at home, looking after her children or whatever. You know, it's just, you can't have the two things be true at once. And yet these women do proclaim both and expect us to fawn all over their every word and believe them. It's bizarre. And, you know, why can't people stand up and give this the belly laugh and then the ignoring that it rightly deserves?
Exactly.
But, yeah, it's I mean, like I think I said before we started this, I looked up on Wikipedia just to see what it said about Cuomo, and the nursing home deaths gets a very, you know, a few very brief paragraphs, and the sexual assault or sexual harassment allegations get a big, long, very detailed discussion and analysis.
Crazy.
Because protecting women's phony virtue is more important than protecting the lives of our elderly population. Yes. That's how crazy we've gotten. And so, I mean, ask me if I care what happens to Cuomo. I don't care what happens to Cuomo, if he gets thrown out, if he goes to prison, even if he goes to prison unjustly. I do not care. Him and his ilk have been part of the culture that has brought about. If they get bit by it, I could give a shit.
Yeah. Indeed.
Yeah, there it is.
There it is. Crazy, and more crazy.
Yeah.
Another happy conclusion.
Holy crap. Indeed.
Yeah, well,
there you go.
Oh gosh, and I didn't say this at the beginning of the talk, but because I forgot, but I want to say it now before we do our close and lose all of our audience. Regarding Men has been through a big transition lately. We have switched our platform from Stripe over to Subscribestar. There's links below if you'd like to join us. And we decided to start mentioning some of the groups that are happening there. And I wanted to tell you that a man named Dave Scala is doing a group on Saturdays at 12:30 Eastern time on professional development. This is for guys that, from everything from wanting to work on your resume to how you advance in corporate culture to entrepreneurial efforts, all things like that. And we are getting, I have not attended one of those yet, but I've had many comments from the people who have attended saying it's a fantastic group for personal development along the professional line. So you might want to join Regarding Men just for that. If you're struggling to get ahead or advance, or you have ideas that you want to further, that's a great meeting from a very experienced businessman to help you with that. Again, 12:30 Eastern time Saturdays. What's that, John?
Men helping men. What a concept.
Men helping, imagine that.
And that's what we see throughout Regarding Men. Is it's just beautiful, you know, the men helping each other. The red-pilled men have a common bond, and that bond really helps. It really helps. It's a beautiful thing to watch.
Well, it beats men throwing men under the bus to impress women. From that.
Yeah, there you go.
Sure is. It sure is. Yeah.
I strongly recommend that. I mean, if you haven't, you can join for $5 a month, and you can try a couple of groups. If it's not your cup of tea, you can check out. All you've lost is $5. But what we hear over and over again from the many men who attend these groups is that they become central to their lives in very important ways.
Yes, indeed. And the sign up is on Subscribestar, which we'll give the link below. And the website stays the same. So your login for the website will be the same thing, but you'll sign up now on Subscribestar. That's the only difference.
Instructions provided on the site.
Indeed. Are we finished?
I think we are.
Think so.
Except that are
good. Pretty good.
Not bad.
Not bad.
God. You guys take care. We'll see
next
you.
time.
Bye
Have
bye.
a great week. Bye bye.